We're taking a live look right now at the Capitol, where the Senate approved the last-minute spending bill around 12:30 this morning. To talk more about what's in the bill and what comes next is Georgetown University professor of public policy, Harry Holzer. Good morning to you. We appreciate you being with us.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of movement on Capitol Hill to avert this shutdown while many people were sleeping. Can you kind of walk us through exactly what happened here early this morning to keep the government open?
Well, since the two parties are so far apart and they can't agree on a regular budget, they keep playing this game of going right up to the cliff with the government reaching a deadline and about to run out of money, and that usually pressures them into passing a new agreement, which is usually just extending the old agreement. They were all set to do that, but then Elon Musk and Donald Trump at the last minute threw a monkey wrench into their plans, demanded that that deal be changed to deal with the debt limit, which is a somewhat separate issue. That failed. So then they had to race against the clock to go back to their old agreement, which they just barely managed to do.
Talk about some of the key things in this spending bill that was passed, or what's included here and what was left out.
Well, the bill primarily just extends what was already in the budget. That's called the continuing resolution, a CR, and it's only for the next 3 months, by the way. But there had been some add-ons, and some of those are still there, especially about $100 billion in disaster relief for the local areas that were devastated by hurricanes. There's a few other things, but a few things were also dropped from the bill, like the funding for the new RFK Stadium in DC. But most of it was already there, and most of it remains there now.
Yeah, and we know you mentioned there only funds the government until March. We've been here time and time again. What needs to happen with lawmakers to ensure we are not in the same position again in a few months?
Well, they have to come to an agreement. But right now, the two sides are so far apart. They're so polarized that they can't do that. It's been many years since we had a budget produced through the normal process, what's called regular order. So in the absence of their ability to come to a real agreement and to face the country's real problems, they keep going right up to the cliff. And one side, the group out of power, uses the threat of the shutdown or the threat of not passing a debt ceiling to try to pressure the other side into making concessions. It usually doesn't generate good results. We just have this repeated play of this bad movie of about to run out of money, about to shut down the government until they pass a small extension again. To get out of this, they need to make tough choices, which both sides are really not willing to make.
Yeah, and really frustrating because it impacts people's livelihoods and jobs. Before we go, got about 30 seconds left. We know part of this reason that we're here for this 11th hour scenario too is because of the opposition from Elon Musk. You mentioned that earlier. He doesn't hold an elected office. He was able to help sink this spending plan. Is this kind of a preview of his potential role in the Trump administration?
Unfortunately, it might be. He is unelected, but he does wield enormous power, through X, formerly Twitter, and just by having a big megaphone. And he has Donald Trump's ear right now. And he will likely continue to keep doing this as long as Donald Trump lets him do it and doesn't rein him in. Many of us think that's a negative thing, and it's up to the president-elect to rein him in and not give him this unofficial power.
All right, lots to keep our eye on. Professor Holzer, thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate your insight.
Thank you for having me on.